Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Player Zone YouTube channel. I think it's time for Crisis Talks now. Manchester City, it's getting ridiculous at this point in time. 5 losses on the bounce on the back of a 4-0 loss last night to Spurs. A Spurs side who just recently lost 2-1 to Ipswich last time out in the Premier League. And yes, it's very Spursy for them to go and do that and then go beat Man City 4-0. But gee, this was a clinical performance from Tottenham Hotspur. This video is more about Man City. I guess focusing on that, we can talk about Spurs, I guess, on the podcast come Monday. But this was worrying signs of Manchester City here. A counter-attacking masterclass from Spurs in many regards. Haaland probably had the first chance of the game. Looking at the game and the play-by-play in the 11th minute, Savio run found the Norwegian. He should have hit this shot towards the near post of Vicario, made a very important early save there. But from that point in time, it was a very clear pattern of play. Spurs would make the most of their possession when they'd have it, but they would love to counter-attack from a deep-lying position. And James Maddison returned to the lineup on his birthday in the 30th minute, opened the scoring. Maddison getting on the back post of a superb Kulusevski cross and a very smartly taken volley to make it 1-0. Again, Kulusevski getting in behind, great cross to find Maddison. That was 1-0 in the 13th minute. Maddison would add his second goal in the 20th minute. Give and go with Heung-min Son, great running, great interplay between the two of them, and he would drill that ball out and into the back of the net there. Again, I highlighted in this moment here when I looked at the game, Paul playing out from the back, Josko Vardiol giving the ball to Maddison for the lead up of the goal there, and just showed signs of City breaking down defensively, that orientation, that system falling apart, and that's something we'll touch on a little bit later. Poro just after half-time at it 3-0 in the 53rd minute. Again, Man City's defence and midfield tracking back, nowhere to be seen, getting in behind. It was well done by Dom Solanke to recycle the ball back to Pedro Porro, and his really well struck ball found at the far left corner to make it 3-0. From then on in, Man City had a lot of chances. Not many clear-cut chances, but notable chances at that. Erling Haaland skimming the bar in the 60th minute. Ilkay Gundogan, after a little give and go with Kevin De Bruyne, was denied by Vicario as well. And another massive save from Vicario. The big one for me was in the 79th minute. Erling Haaland was offered space in behind to make the run. Vicario able to stand up tall, and a very strong right hand to keep out Haaland there just before the 80th minute mark. It was all wrapped up though by Brennan Johnson, who got on the end of a great cross across the 6-yard box, sliding in to make it 4-0 right at the end there in stoppage time after Timo Werner walked his way in behind the back line. Key players from this game before I get into the key storylines. James Maddison, superb. Coming back into the lineup, a little bit of tension between him and Ange, I'm pretty sure, in the last few weeks, and being left out the lineup. Comes in this week with the modifications to the side. Papsar and Basuma back in midfield. James Maddison at the 10. Fantastic job in this game here. 9.2 SOFA score match rating. 2 goals, 64 touches, 89% pass accuracy with 2 out of 2 successful dribbles. All in all, fantastic game for him, and a match winner in this game in many regards. Kulusevski as well, I always say in the prediction videos, whenever he plays well, Tottenham win their games of football, and they're going to ride him a lot this season, so it feels like. 8.1 match rating, 1 assist, 4 to 4 successful dribbles, 3 key passes, and the 2 big chances created. He is just pivotal to this side, whether he's in the 10 or he drifts out wide like he was in this game here. He seems to just be the magnet to chances. Whenever he gets the ball and gets it moving forward, something happens for Tottenham. And it can be, I guess, a positive and a negative, because when he's not involved, like we saw in recent weeks, especially that Ipswich game, the Spurs side just collapses around him. So again, he stood up in this big game here, made another stand, another great performance at the Eddie had from Dejan Kulusevski, and clinical at that in terms of his passing range and his movement on and off the ball there. And for me, an underrated player in this game, in many regards, is Vicario. He won't get talked about much because it was a 4-0 win, but he had to make some massive saves. That early save to deny Erling Haaland in the 11th minute, saves later on for Ilkay Gundogan and Haaland in the second half. Important stops and great delivery. 8.3 match rating, 5 saves, 3 saves coming inside of the box there, 2 accurate long passes as well. He seems to be a keeper. Yeah, yes, corners are his vulnerability, but outside of that, he seems to make limited mistakes. And that's something with Vicario we're going to have to track over time, because he doesn't make the miraculous saves that we saw in this game here. It's the mistakes and the playing out from the back that often, I guess, is a negative against his name and against his reputation. But in this game here was a very controlled performance. No massive rash errors or mistakes or really ballsy passes out from the back. He just played a complete performance, backed up with some great saves in there as well. And I think for me, probably 1B in terms of man of the match in this game because it was very important protecting that makeshift back line for Tottenham Hotspur as well. Quickly before I guess we get into the whole storyline of the whole game, look at some of the stats. So Man City 58% possession, basically bossed most of the ball in this game here, but I guess the big numbers come here. The 2.15 XG for City versus the 2.51 for Tottenham. So they had a better XG, despite only having 9 shots, Tottenham versus Man City's 23 shots, and the 5 big chance created for Spurs was the big difference here. They made those chances happen. I think that's the storyline from this game here for me. Man City, obviously, they lose Kovacic. I think that was a massive loss as well without Roger being there. You lose Kovacic as well, who I think's been probably their best player in the season. And then all of a sudden, the transitional play was made at ease. It was already been made easier prior to when Kovacic was there and Roger was out. Now with Kovacic out as well and Rico Lewis having to play that role there, relying on Ilkay Gundogan's aging legs in that midfield area, you can just see how easily Spurs get in behind. And I keep looking at that third goal, that Pedro Porro goal. No one is tracking the Tottenham players. I think Yves Bissouma's coming up, Pedro Porro's coming up. They're both unmarked. Dom Solanke had the option of 2 players to pull the ball back to, pick the bad option, they find the back of the net, 3-0, that wraps the game up. It's small things like that. I know this back line is coming back from injury, Stones, Akanji, Vardiol, probably a little bit tired of the amount of games he's had to play, but they were stretched. They looked all out at sea. A lot of finger pointing, a lot of you go there, and everyone's behind the play. I'm just worried about how easy Man City are getting transitioned on, and once again, it shows the value of Rodri and how important he is to this team. The worry I have, though, is Pep's a system guy. In recent years, he just bought players that have come in and just fit the system, landed perfectly. Is this system so centrally oriented about Rodri? Do you have to modify and tinker? And of course, Pep's going to tinker. He always does. But can he find a solution to the way he wants to play his football, to have these 60% possession, these 23 shots, to allow them to play this sort of attacking system, but without a Rodri there? Do they have to set a sort of double pivot in? Do they have to stop inverting the fullbacks and keep it as a back four? Maybe overlap the fullbacks rather than inverting the fullbacks more often than not. Because this system, yes, it's attractive on the eye when it gets going and the ball's pinging about, but once they turn the ball over, Spurs turn them over quite a bit in that midfield area. That midfield looked slow. That defence looked all out at sea. They looked underdone. And injury problems are a problem for every team. And City have had them in the past, but they've dealt with it. But this is a big hole that Rodri's missing. I think that back line, once they get fit, this will slowly sort of start to fix itself. But right now, you're very, very vulnerable to the counter-attack. And I can't see any changes being made that's going to try and prevent that. I think it has to come down to the play style. That's a one for me. The second thing is, yes, it was 23 shots and 58% possession, but they got outplayed in terms of in the final third. They didn't create enough in the final third for me. A lot of these chances that were safe on Vicario, they're still good saves, but they're from those tight angles, they'll force wide. Tottenham did a good job in denying City any really obvious opportunities inside of the box. Probably think of that Gundogan chance and that Haaland chance in the second half. Outside of that, there was no really clear one-on-one chances inside the box. City with Gundogan, with Foden, Bernardo Silva, Savinho, it wasn't good enough. There wasn't enough incisive play, there wasn't enough speed and pizzazz in the final third. There wasn't enough excitement, ingenuity in the final third to make things happen. And that's a worry because I look at their last 5 games, which they've all lost, 4 goals scored. Only 4. They managed only 1 past Southampton. And this is when I look back a few games. Their last good game was that Arsenal game. Outside of that, the last 2 Premier League wins before this massive loss streak was a 1-0 win versus Southampton and a 2-1 late last gasp winner away at Wolves. We're talking about 2 teams in the bottom 5. So we only seen City perform well when Rodri was there. And we said every year, Rodri's, the impact he makes is massive, and when he misses, it's a big deal. But he's out. He's out for the year now. You got to fix something up. And your system can't rely purely on one player to do, help both the attack and the defence. There's obviously other contributing factors. The players aren't performing well enough. And I look at Phil Foden. I look at Bernardo Silva, Nunes, Savinho. I'm a big fan of Savinho. But they were not doing enough. Erling Haaland, I know he's a robot, but he's not going to finish every single chance he gets. You've got to create for him. And it's just looking so stagnant, so slow, lacking creativity, lacking energy in that final third that teams are fine to sit in. I said in recent years, you can't just sit in versus City because eventually they'll break you down. But this year it looks like you can just sit in versus City and wait for them to turn the ball over. Then you can go counter-attack them because they don't have that same overwhelming momentum, the waves of attacking football that you eventually have to break down. They don't have that anymore. I haven't seen that in the last sort of 4, 5, 6 weeks. It hasn't been that, oh no, we can't just sit in here because they're going to keep coming and coming and coming. They'll score 1 and they'll score 5. It hasn't happened. They're too leaky defensively. They can't score in the final third. And I think, yes, a Rodri massive hole is a big part of that. But it just feels like all over the park, they're lacking energy. They're lacking the legs. And that can happen. You win all these Premier Leagues in a row. You win the Champions League a few years back. You've dominated England for so long. And it's understandable you can have a fall off. I think we've set our expectations so high for Man City just to come back and make these miraculous comebacks and make things happen with Pep. And it just hasn't worked out this season. But we hold them to such a high level. When you look at some of his stats here, I've got them all written down. Their 2-year unbeaten run at home comes to an end. This is Pep's worst home loss of his managerial career. 5 losses in a row, only 4 goals scored. The first time in Pep's career and the first time in 18 years for Man City that they've lost 5 games on the bounce. They're the first reigning top flight side in Premier League or English history to lose 5 games in a row since 1956 in Chelsea. It is disastrous right now, to say the least. And the Pep deal midweek, I thought it would re-galvanise the troops and shift the focus away from the poor performances. But the spotlight's right back on Man City. They got a massive Champions League midweek game versus Feyenoord, I believe, then Liverpool. A huge game against Liverpool. You lose that, Liverpool should win tonight versus Southampton. You're 11 points off the top. And yes, they've clawed back, I think, 9 or 10 in the past, but this is a different story. We're looking at a Liverpool team that looks more like Man City and a Man City team that looks more like that injured Liverpool team for 4 or 5 years ago. It is lacking confidence, it's lacking energy, it's lacking creativity, it's lacking defensive cover. And that's simply it. If you look at this side, you take the badge away, take the manager away, you look at this side, it looks like a mid-table side. It seriously does. And I'm not trying to be over the top here. It looks really average. Midfield looks slow. No creativity in the final third. Counter-attacked at will. It looks like a team that's just lost all sorts of confidence, belief in the system. It's just not working. You need to have something fresh here. Whether that means you wait for the cavalry to come back and the full team gets fit. But I think in the time being, you have to change the style of football if you're Pep. Be willing to go 50-50 with possession and maybe counter-attack some other teams. Utilise your own weakness against other teams as well. That might be your avenue to finding results. But right now, I'm very worried for Manchester City. Yes, it's a knee-jerk reaction in many regards, but still, it's 5 games now. You come back from an international break. You've got a few of the players back. I've got to be honest, that back four, I'm all eyes on it. I was so big on Vardiol. I'm probably a bit tough for him. He's played a lot this season. But the guys come back like Akanji. Kyle Walker's been there all year. He's looked worse and worse as the weeks have gone on. Gundogan's legs have just gone from him. He hasn't got the same ability that he had 2 years ago when he left the club for Barcelona. There's not enough creativity from Savinho. There's not enough from Bernardo Silva. It's a very hollow, very poor team at the current point in time. They're going to have to turn out very, very quickly. Because Champions League, then you've got Liverpool. 2 massive games that come in the week. And if you lose both, and it goes to 7 games, or you don't win both, a lot of pressure falls on this side. And Pep Guardiola's never travelled well to Anfield in the past and going to have to travel very well in this game here next weekend versus Liverpool to keep in the title race. I think next week could be it. If they lose it, I can't see them making up 11 points versus a very controlled, very dangerous Arne Slot side. So a lot to be worried about if you're Man City. Congratulations to Spurs. Ange Postecoglou. It's such a Spurs result. You lose versus Ipswich, you're going 4-0 batter Man City in their own backyard. It's very, very interesting to see how Spurs going forward now. Can they use this confidence and put together a string of performances, 6 or 7 games with dominant wins? That's the next step for Spurs. For Man City, it's back to the drawing board. It's getting back that confidence. It's getting back the creativity in the final third. And it's refining that balance in midfield that you can defend the counter-attacks as well. A lot to be worried about there. With that being said, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. How did you see last night's game? Did you see it one way like I saw it as well? I think Tottenham absolutely dominated it from that first goal onwards. If you enjoyed the video, smash a like on it. Subscribe to the Players Down channel for more videos like these, guys. Press that post notification bell so you know we upload here in the channel. With that being said, guys, have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of the football from the weekend. And I'll see you guys in the video very, very soon. Till next time, guys. See you later.